All right, hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining today, and welcome to Blue Triangle's product training. So today we're going to discuss some of the best practices for real user monitoring. We'll be covering things like traffic segmentation and page naming, optimal tag placement, and how to troubleshoot a performance issue using the Blue Triangle portal. So my name is Mark Heidemann. I'm the support manager here at Blue Triangle, and we do regular training sessions on Thursdays to talk about general web performance topics and best practices, and ultimately how you can use Blue Triangle to solve problems. So let's go ahead and get started for today. Here's a quick overview of what we're going to cover. We're going to break it out in a couple different ways. We'll start with tag configuration, and then we'll talk about actually, performing analysis in the Blue Triangle portal. So with tag configuration, we'll talk about traffic segmentation and page naming, custom data fields, which are custom categories, custom variables, and custom numbers. We'll talk about tag placement and where you should or should not place the tag, as well as configuration changes and testing. Then as we get into the Blue Triangle portal, we'll talk about alerts, automated reports, dashboards, and we'll finish today with a quick walkthrough on troubleshooting a performance issue. So first of all, Blue Triangle tag configuration. So with traffic segmentation and page naming, to get the most out of Blue Triangle, it's important to configure all types of traffic segmentation that you can. This maximizes the utility of Blue Triangle. It allows you to, slice and dice the data in more and more ways. It helps different folks within the organization be able to get the data that they need. So this includes traffic segment, content groups and page groups, marketing campaigns, data center, and A/B testing segment. It's also very important to be sure that the Blue Triangle tag is on all pages of the site, including error pages. It's actually particularly important to be on error pages for a couple of reports in Blue Triangle, one of which is the broken links report. So real quick about that report, you're able to see how many times you're hitting these error pages and what the referring URL is. So what URL led to this error page, right? So as far as page naming goes, there's a lot that goes into page naming, and I'm just going to gloss over it here. But one kind of not necessarily a best practice, but one thing that you definitely should not do is do page naming such that it's unique for each URL. This is not optimal for analytics. It just makes so many different page names that it's difficult to really provide good analysis on general page names. So page naming in most cases needs to be done by a page template. So that would be, product detail page or category page or account sign up page and that sort of thing. So I've included a help article here as well as a product training if you're interested in checking those out. Those are some great resources for this. So the next thing is custom data fields, custom categories, variables, and numbers. Put simply, you should configure these to collect data that's unique to your site, and it allows you to extend the functionality of Blue Triangle, and it allows you to graph custom numbers that you want to collect, or custom categories. For example, maybe a customer session ID or a customer loyalty ID or something like that. There's a variety of use cases, but it really helps you get the most out of Blue Triangle's analytics, and it tailors the analytics to your specific site and your specific data. All right, and there's a help article and a product training here for custom data fields as well. So tag placement. There's a couple important things to note about tag placement. First of all, generally, we recommend that you place the tag in a footer or anything that will be included with every web page that needs to be measured. So we strongly recommend that you do not place the tag in the head of the page. That's an important thing to note. Any tag loading in the head can have an impact on your performance. So we don't have a specific optimal location to load, but it should definitely not be in the head of the page. It could be in the body, but the footer should be fine as well. Now there's another thing related to the tag that is recommended and that should go in the head, and it's called our error event listener code snippet. And basically what this does is there's a help article here that you can read about the specifics, but basically it's just JavaScript code. It doesn't do any network calls or it won't cause any loading issues. It's just there to collect JavaScript errors and CSP violations prior to the blue triangle tag being added to the page. So it basically just saves these errors into an array, so the blue triangle tag is able to use them later on when it's added to the page. Another thing that it does is it expands the browser's resource timings buffer from the 150 default to the maximum of 400. So that allows us to collect much more of your real user resource timing data. Okay, so with that said, this can be added to the head, and we actually do recommend that you add it to the top of the head so it can be there to collect any errors that are happening prior to the tag loading. And here's a handful of help articles that are relevant to this. There's how to implement the tag in Google Tag Manager, how to implement blue triangle tag without a tag manager, and tag implementation for single page applications, as well as this error event listener code snippet right here. Okay. All right, tag configuration changes and testing. This is a pretty brief note, but one of the questions we get asked quite frequently is whether any tag configuration changes will impact data, all data, or just data moving forward. And the answer to that is the changes are only going to impact data moving forward. So that's important to understand. So in the event you have an upcoming release and there will be a new page name or a new AB segment or anything like that, you should prepare the tag configuration to be able to collect this data prior to this release to prod. You should test the data collection out in pre-prod. Then you can go ahead and add it to the blue triangle tag, which is btt.js. And that should be done prior to the release to prod. This way, your data collection and the traffic segmentation or the page name goes into effect immediately. Sometimes if someone makes a change and analytics teams aren't aware, they'll have to kind of scramble to get the data collection in place, and you'll miss a few hours or maybe a day or two of data. So it's important to be aware of this kind of situation here. All right, so using the Blue Triangle portal, I just have a few bullet points here. As far as alerts, automated reports, and dashboards are all kind of key areas of Blue Triangle, especially for real user monitoring. So one of the things that we always recommend is to set up alerts for critical events and critical pages. So critical events would include things like a low revenue alert or a minimum pages alert, or something like that. There's a couple of help articles here that you can see. There's a help article and a training actually, which the product trainings are going to be longer form discussions like this one today, 15, 20, or 30 minutes, whereas these help articles, they typically have a how-to video as well that is just a couple of minutes, and it gives you what you want to know really quick. But if you want to learn a little more, these trainings are good as well. The other thing that's great to do is to set up automated reports. So there's a place in Blue Triangle where you can go in to configure, I don't know the exact number, but there might be 20 different report types that you can configure. And how it works is it'll you set up obviously the type of the report, the time period the report should be for, whether it's the past day, the past few hours, or the past week, or something like that. And then you can get this report automatically emailed to you on a set interval that you can configure as well. Here's an article and a training on automated reports. And the last thing is you should definitely take advantage of the dashboards in Blue Triangle. They are super robust and there's a ton you can do with them. There's several pre-configured dashboards, and there's also custom dashboards that you can go in and add custom widgets to. And there's a help article and a training on that linked here as well. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is do a quick walkthrough on how to troubleshoot a performance issue. So I'm going to actually open up Blue Triangle and we're going to walk through this right now. All right, so right now I'm in the dashboard, obviously. We're on the site overview pre-configured dashboard, and this is our demo e-commerce global site. And this is really a great dashboard to have up at all times to give you, at a glance, an idea of how the site is performing holistically. You get this really cool geography heat map giving you an idea of performance throughout the world or throughout a particular region. You can actually click and drill into these, for example, the United States, and view the sub-regions or states in this case. And that'll actually update the other 3 widgets, which is super cool. And you can change the metric that we're using to determine the temperature of this heat map as well. So if we wanted to change it to like largest contentful paint, for example, you can do that here. So we'll go back to the world map and look at everything holistically. And one more thing that's important to note is revenue is a very good thing to watch alongside performance, because typically if a performance issue is not impacting revenue, it's not as significant an issue as you might think. I mean, speaking very generally, as far as an issue for the business, this is mainly an issue for maybe the IT team, right? But if the performance spike or elevation is impacting, has a correlating dip in revenue, then that's a major problem, right? The business is losing money, so this is something we really need to fix right away. So as far as how to investigate that, I'm looking at the last 6 hours here, and we'll just pick one of these little spikes and kind of drill into it. So we'll pick this one here at 10:23. And so what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to the real user performance detail page, and you can actually do that in the menu, real user monitoring. We're focused on web browser data today and performance detail. So let's focus in at the 10 o'clock hour. You can change the time period here. Oops. Okay, 10 to 11 on the 3rd. All right, and the other thing we're going to do is choose the top several pages, because typically a performance issue, it depends, but in a lot of cases a performance issue is going to be specific to a particular page type or maybe a particular area of the site. So we're going to try to identify where the which page is the performance issue happening on. I'm going to select just the regular page loads for now and see if we can figure something out here. We'll do, what is that, 5 pages? Yeah, that sounds good. So here we can see the default is on load, but we can change that to timed interactive or something by just clicking this over here. And we get a performance bar average over the time period for each page. And what's super cool is you can actually see so down here is the trend of all pages combined, but you can actually click into one of these bars and identify and that filters down the trend graph below. So now we're just looking at the home page, and it looks like there was a bit of a spike in first contentful paint, but not as significant with other metrics. We can look at the category. Appears to be unaffected. The My Bag page, PDP page, and search page. So 1023 was our time period, right? So I think what we found is that this may be specific to the product detail page. Okay, because it looks like all metrics have a brief spike at 1023. So from here, what we can do is drill down, and what you'll notice is this scatter plot down here to the left is all of the page views that happened during this where this shaded area is, and you can actually filter on data where object level detail was collected, and it may be too specific a time period to look at this, but it looks like in this case we do have some data for this. And if we choose this one, which is super slow, so just to clarify that over to the left is page views, and to the right is page views for just the session that was selected, and by default it'll select the slowest session, right? So you can click here and then drill down into the exact URL. You can get some details about this URL, and then what's great is you can see the domain level waterfall as well as the object level detail. So the first thing we notice here is there was a super long response time for this, basically the base page on this product page. So this immediately signifies to me that there's probably a back-end issue of some kind. Here we can see a spike in first byte. So there's all this blocking time in the beginning as well, which is something to be concerned about. Now, this is only data for one page, right? So this may be an anomaly, which it kind of does look like an anomaly in this case. But what you're able to do to get a generalized view of the resources loading on your site is use the real user aggregate waterfall. So here you're able to see an aggregate. Let me go in and select the page, product detail page, and we'll probably choose, we want to choose the same time period, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Now we're probably not really going to see much since there was kind of a negligible performance increase, but for the sake of the demonstration here, it's always good to filter on a page name here as well. Sometimes it can muddy the waters if you're looking at all pages on the site. So we're going to look at the product detail page. And here we can see the aggregate domain level detail for the PDP page, which is super cool. I mean, it's 1 hour of time period. You can also flip over to the object level detail. You can see if there's any particular files that are loading slower, significantly slower than others. In this case, there doesn't appear to be much of a general performance issue, so probably not the best example, but this is the workflow that you can use to troubleshoot performance issues, and identify if there was a slow loading resource that caused the overall page speed to be slow, or what. Another cool thing, and I won't get into it now, but you're able to run a comparison here between two time periods or two different, basically two different sets of filter options, but it's typically two different time periods, so you can see what's changed between the one time period to the other time period, right? So that's a really cool thing, and there's a great training that we've done recently on that, the aggregate waterfall comparison. So if you have any questions about that, be sure to check that out. All right, so that's kind of like a quick walkthrough of how you might go about troubleshooting a performance issue in real user monitoring. If you have any questions, I'm happy to chat with you. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to open up the slides, back up, and I'm going to check the questions and see if there's anything I can help answer for you guys. All right, so there was a question about configuring the traffic segmentation. So I guess I forgot to mention, and the majority of the traffic segmentation is actually going to be needed to be configured by a Blue Triangle, maybe customer success, or someone on Blue Triangle's side. It can cause some problems if there is any issues with the code or variable that's used. So that's how that works. With that said, you can configure page naming yourself, and I can show you how to do that in a separate session. But there's some good resources for page naming on in our help center. So be sure to check that out. So we had another question about virtual turns. Is there any best practice to naming page name and transaction name? So absolutely. There's if I open up the page again, we had this for our demo site. The one thing I would point out is whenever you are naming a virtual turn, you should name it with a -VT. The reason for this is it's not always helpful to look at performance between regular page loads and virtual turns together, because it can kind of skew. Typically, virtual turns are much quicker. So that's one thing. However, the traffic segments, you can keep that inside of any production or e-commerce or whatever the typical traffic segment is. And then for page group, you should probably add a page group for virtual turns. So if you wanted to look at all your virtual turn data, you could just click to filter on virtual turns, and you could do that like this. It's a great question. So I think that was the last question for today, and I'll go ahead and kind of close things out for today. And if there's any questions, I'll keep an eye on the chat and the questions. So thanks everyone for your time. If you do have any more questions, we're always happy to chat with you offline. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. You can reach us at any of the emails listed here. Support is support@bluetriangle.com. And our help center is also a great resource, and you can get there. It's the question mark icon in Blue Triangle, the Blue Triangle portal, and it's at help.bluetriangle.com. All right, guys. Thanks again for your time, and we look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a great day.